Right. Let's pray and begin. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to share as we grow personally. We know that if we are going to have a better life, we've got to get better at life. And so help us to do that on today. We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you now in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. And so welcome to all of you. We appreciate you being here. The Winter Circle is a personal development time. And so it's not a Bible study, it's a personal development time where we share insights on how we can all get better at life. And you can share some of your winning strategies for how you have been effective and successful at life. So today we want to deal with dealing with setbacks. Dealing with setbacks, how we deal with setbacks, and we celebrate our YouTube audience as well. We were taught in grammar school or middle school that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. All of us in this room have lived long enough to realize that life ain't a straight line. It's life is not linear. Life is not linear. There are gonna be setbacks, no matter how much you pray, no matter how much you plan, no matter what happens, there are factors of life that we can't control. And as we're on our way to our dreams and on our way to our ambitions, and as we are on our way to our whatever our circles of success are, there are going to be setbacks. And the question is how you deal with them. How you deal with them, because some people get setback and never recover. You know, they never recover. Therapists talk about the people who get stuck in a moment in time. Is that since that happened, they've never been the same, and they've been stuck in that space and operating life in that space since that happened. But we have to, if we're going to be effective, if we're going to join the winner circle, if we're going to keep winning and stacking victories, as we say in Hope Fellowship Church, and get win on top of win on top of win, we've got to be able to deal with the setbacks. Got to be able to deal with the setbacks. And so I want to deal with 4 things with the setbacks. And if you write these down or put these in your phone or however you, whether you keep notes from analog or digitally, these 4 things will comprise what we want to deal with today. Number 1 is the shock. The shock. Number 2 is your personal security. And we'll go through these and elaborate on each one of these. So number 1 is the shock. Number 2 is your personal security. Number 3 is the support system. The support system. And number 4 is your comeback strategy. So once again, first we're going to deal with the shock. When there's a setback, I got to deal with the shock. I got to deal with the shock. And the shock can hit you different ways. You know, depending whether it is a personal setback, a business setback, a career setback, whatever it is, you got to deal with the shock. You know, I didn't expect this to happen. I was doing well. You know, I did what I was supposed to do. I was a good employee and they still fired me. I never planned for you know, my 401k, my 401k to deal with tariffs. You know, I'm looking at my money go away. You know, shocks. You know, things that no matter what you plan, you can be a good partner to the best of your ability, and your partner still leaves. The marriage still doesn't work. You know, you can be a great mom and great dad, and children still go astray. You know, there are setbacks. There are setbacks in business. There are setbacks personally, and they're always a shock to our system. And managing that shock is so important in dealing with where we're going to ultimately get to, and that's the comeback. So let's talk about some of the shock that we deal with. First of all, there's the emotional shock. Okay? There's that, there's that, there's that three, there's that three-letter word that haunts us. Why? 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 Why did this happen at all? Why did this happen to me? Why did this happen right now? Why? For those who are people of faith, God, why did you let it happen? Because we get there. It's the emotional shock. And so the first question, and I'm very, very Socratic in how I present. I've said for years, I don't have many answers, but I ask good questions. I don't have many answers, but I ask really, really good questions. And so the first question when it comes to this emotional shock is, how is your emotional makeup, or how does your emotional makeup affect you when setbacks happen? All of us have a different emotional makeup. Okay, all of us have all of us have different thresholds for pain. There's something may happen to you, and you shake it off. Where the person next to you, because of how they were raised, how they were shaped, they are falling out. And so you have to understand your emotional makeup, especially if your emotional makeup is super sensitive. If your emotional makeup is super sensitive, then you're going to have a physical, mental, emotional reaction to whatever happened. And it may be, you may feel that it's worse than it actually is. Give an example. A person who can't stand the sight of blood, let's say a person who just can't stand the sight of blood, sees a cut finger the same way they see an open wound. It's just blood, whether it's 3 drops or whether it's pouring out, and they're fainting and you're looking at, what is wrong with you? It's just a finger. Somebody get some Neosporin and a Band-Aid and let's go on with our day. But if my makeup is, I hate the sight of blood, then my reaction is going to be different than maybe yours will be, which is very, and I was guilty of this for years, which is one of the reasons we can't tell people, that shouldn't be bothering you. One of the worst things you can do is tell people how to feel. To tell people how to feel. It is, what is your emotional sensitivity to shock? Some people, their emotional sensitivity to shock is not dread, it's not fright, it's connected to their ego. How dare this happen to me? A lot of us have our different capacities and our different makeup, and a lot of times it's our ego. It's our ego. It is our ego. How is this setback? One can be, I don't believe this happened to me. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I did, I do this, I do that, I do that. How dare this happen to me? God, how dare you let this happen to me? I did this, I went to church, I tried to be good, I did this, I'm nice to people, I do. And we start running down all of these things that we've done, thinking that doing those things keep us away and make us exempt from many things. Like, God, look at my ledger. This is not supposed to happen to me. And so we get real egos with God, especially when we think we're really good people. Another part of the ego is, how is this going to affect my reputation? How is this going to affect my reputation? It can be in your office. You're the supervisor of the office. You're the manager of the office, and you make a mistake. Oh, how are my teammates going to view me? Because I've presented myself as super manager. I presented myself as the person who, all y'all should grow up and be like me. And now I've made a mistake. So and that's why some people do their best to cover it, because they haven't built a system that allows them to be fallible. You've got to understand, and those who are part of our church, they know I know you will not make a God out of me. No, we're not doing that. I am flawed, fallible. I'm going to make errors. I'm going to make mistakes. Be very clear. If that's okay, if that's not okay, you need God and not me. You need God to be your pastor. It's not me. But a lot of times it's our ego. It is our ego that makes us, and it can happen in our businesses, but it also can happen in our families. There are people in our families who have decided they're never going to look bad. I'm the matriarch, I'm the patriarch, I'm this, I'm never going to look bad. I'm never going to look bad, and there's so many articles about how present generation is affected by the secrets of the family that everybody knows and everybody knows not to talk about. And so it's all of this stuff, all of this stuff. But now, because our whole lives are on the internet, now I've got to deal with the reputation to all of my followers. People are serious about their followers. What is this going to do? I'm so tired of this word, this phrase. My brand. What is my brand? What is this going to do to my brand? And that's why, as an aside, we need to be very, very careful when we're posting. We need to keep in mind that we're flawed, so that you don't have to delete all this stuff later. As a person of faith and church leader and all of that, one of the times I stay off social media is Sunday after church. I stay off Sunday after, because everybody is posting about how great their service was. And it was life-changing. I'm like, it's life-changing every week? It's life-changing every week. I mean, how many times your life needs to change? What else about your life needs to change? It was life-changing and this and that but my problem is that some of those people are depressed on social media by Tuesday. So how did you have so much victory after coming out of church, and now you are just, miserable on Tuesday? We're miserable. Or the person who you can tell on social media, this whole branding thing, you can tell on social media when people get in a new relationship. Everything is, my boo this, my this, and look who the Lord sent me, and look at all of this, and I waited, and this, and then the guys, or he that finds a wife finds a good thing, and it's just all of this stuff. And when they break up, now all of a sudden you get stuff like, be careful, there are wolves in sheep's clothing, and now you got to purge all of these pictures, and now there's all these sad scriptures, and the Lord's, and now you don't need nobody. I'm focusing on me, and stop it. Stop it. It's the shock to the system, and our sensitivity will cause us, whether it's emotional, some of us grieve longer than others. I'm not talking about the grief of a death. I'm talking about the grief of an era. or the grief of a setback, or the grief of I tried and it didn't work. It didn't work. I put all of this work into it. I didn't, I launched this business and it lasted 8 months. And people grieve over that. The loss of relationships, friendships, people grieve, and our emotional makeups can determine how fast we bounce back. Okay? So who recovers fast in general? Who's a fast recoverer? Okay. No. Who will be honest and say, it takes me a minute to bounce back. It takes me a minute.
So what you trying to say? I was honest about mine?
No. I'm saying there's either one. No. We ain't gonna fight today. We're not gonna fight today. We fight once a month. We ain't gonna fight today. No, I'm saying that there are people who are those people like yourself who just shake it off. Yeah. But here is the thing, and I want you to conceptualize these two words rather than to hold me to their specific denotation. Some of us get hurt. Then some of us get wounded. And the people who just get hurt bounce back faster. Those of us who get wounded, we're rehearsing it in our minds. We're trying to figure it out. What did I do wrong? What could have happened? And we're just, and so for me, some places I get hurt, I bounce back. Some places I get wounded, and it's tougher for me to bounce back. It is if I've put my all and then it fails, I get wounded. Zanette.
I was gonna say to the point you're making, like there's a part where I have to process, and it's like introspect. I need to know what I'm learning or personal development. So there is a point where there is a pause for me. So I don't know if and I guess you're right. Sometimes I am wounded, and sometimes I'm able to bounce back. But for the most part, my personality, I'm always kind of processing.
Let me add this and see if this will make the differentiation for you. People who are wounded, the injury affects what they do in the future. They don't just go through a process of healing. They are now taking that into their future. So if now I didn't just have a failed relationship, now my lens has changed toward relationships of the opposite sex. They're wounded, So it's not I had a bad relationship. Now it's all men are terrible. They're walking in wounds. It's not that I had a bad situation on my job. It is now, don't get personally invested. Don't get emotionally invested. Just go and do your job and get your check and go home. Because them people... we carry this stuff. We carry this stuff. And if I am going to have a good comeback, I have got to recover faster. I've got to recover faster. I've got to say, this is not the end. This is not the end. And I may not like this forever, but this is not the end. I've got to, it is your emotional. How has this affected, how has the shock of the emotion? Then it could be, depending on the situation, it's the financial shock. Okay, this setback hit my pocket. This setback has cost me money that I didn't expect to spend, or this setback has lost me money. You've invested all of this into your startup, and then You know, most startups, last 5 years or less, and you don't even last a year. And now uh, you've got all of this debt. One person said this to me, there's a difference between being broke and being in debt. Being broke is all my stuff is paid, but I don't have no cash left. Being in debt is I don't have any cash and I still have bills. And that can be a shock to your system. How does the father go home and say, I lost my job and this is going to affect us financially? How does the single mom go home and say, okay, we got to move because we know I can no longer afford this place. And what we don't understand is that there are people around us that are dealing with these kind of financial shocks all the time. They're dealing with these financial shocks. It's the shock to the emotions. It's the shock to the system. It's the shock to the reputation. All of these shocks happen. Then and when that happens, the question becomes, where's your security? Where's your security? Here's what I mean. And Felicia's already alluded to it. My security has to be in my belief in myself and my belief in God. If you're a person of faith, everybody's not who may be watching us. It is. I've got to believe in me enough. I start with me. I've got to believe in me enough that this setback doesn't end me. I've got to believe. When I was in sales, I realized that really wasn't the thing for me, because I don't deal with rejection well. Okay, and so you gotta bounce back from those no's. You got to bounce back from that no, and you got to go to the next call. And by my makeup, I don't deal with rejection well, and I don't like losing. Okay, I don't deal with rejection well. I don't like losing. The people who do well in that field are the people who, okay, let's on to the next one. It happens, but they don't feel it. They're looking for the next, okay, if they're a car salesman, somebody else driving up here. You didn't want the car, but somebody else is driving up here. Whatever their makeup says, I believe in me. Now, while I'm not a salesperson and don't take rejection well, there are certain setbacks that do not shake me because I have too much belief in myself. I have too much belief in myself. It's like, no, I'm really gonna win. and it's not ego. It's not ego. There has to be a security in who you are, so that when you walk into that situation and the person says, can you handle this assignment? Yes, I can. We're looking for somebody to do this. Look no more, it's me. There has to be that level of belief in yourself. But also, for those of us who are people of faith, there's got to be that belief in God. It's like, you know what? If God didn't have this for me, he'll have something else for me. But also, I was talking to my son Donovan about this yesterday. It's great to have your own people around you, because it was the middle of the day. Donovan called, and I looked at my phone. He had called twice. I said he called twice in a row. I need to get back to him. We were in the middle of hosting one of the candidates for the president of VCU, and so I stepped out. We were hosting. Dr. Coleman Farrer was presenting in the atrium of the PAC, and so I walked around to the other door, and it was the faculty and staff forum. So Jay was in there. And so I walked around, I'm talking to Donovan, and then I look at my phone to get a text, and it's from Jay. We can hear you. We can hear you. So I walked outside. But one of the things I was talking to Donovan about is that our security in ourselves and our security in God means that no particular episode stops us. The hand of God is on your life. The hand of God is on your life. The hand of God is on your career. So today's setback does not shake us because it's just a day. When you don't have that kind of belief in yourself and you don't have that kind of belief in God, you are winning and losing on every episode. You are winning and losing on every situation. So something good happens. Oh, I believe God and thank you, God. And then something bad happens. Oh, what am I going to do? No. The hand of God and it's on your life. You're not going to win them all, but you're going to come out a winner. And when you have that perspective, you don't live and die on every episode of your life. That God does not have to give you something new and shiny every other week in order for you to believe that he's really with you, because you understand that it's on your life. That is a security that you've got to have. It is that for those of us who are people of faith, we never read about Joseph giving up on himself. His brothers sell him. He gets falsely accused of rape. He's going to jail. He's this and that, all of that. And there's never a woe is me, and even though he was human, I'm sure he had low times, but there was never my life is over. My life is over. There's got to be a security. And let me say this, no matter how much you achieve, how successful you are, if you're a person who harbors personal identity insecurity, it's going to bleed out. It's going to bleed out. We are being victimized by an insecure billionaire as the president of the United States, regardless of what your politics are. Some of what he does is to prove that he's worthy. That's why he always says he's the greatest thing that ever happened to everything. Nobody's done more for Christianity than I have. Nobody's done more for energy than I have. Nobody's done, and the petulance comes out. I saw a clip. I try to avoid him on social media. I just don't want to see him. He tests my salvation. So it's like he really tests my salvation, because you got to love everybody as a saved person. He as one of my friends says, he tries my Holy Ghost. But they barred him from the Met Gala last week. They barred him from the Met Gala because the Met Gala theme was basically black excellence and black. So they barred him. There's a clip where he's making a statement, and of course he mispronounces her name on purpose, and he says they let that Kamala Harris walked the red carpet at the Met Gala and had the nerve to bar me. Nobody's done more for fashion in the United States than I have. Right. Right. It's like that insecurity. So now by hook or crook, I got to be on top because of that personal insecurity. You got to deal with that. Otherwise, the setbacks in your life will last longer than they were supposed to. So when we're talking about the shock, we're dealing with the effects of it, the emotional, financial, PR, branding. Anybody else, an effect that the shock to your system has? Charles.
Pastor, I was going to ask, when we were in section 1 about that emotional shock, but you just sort of connected the dots for me, but now this will tie into what you just asked. When you were saying how we could get a wound sometimes instead of hurt, you might say something like, just go to that job and do your day. Well, prior to coming here, what prompted this transition for my family and I was let go from the company that I was working with.
Okay.
I was going into a vice president role, and then they had a divestment come up, and my role went with it.
Okay.
And so I'm on a call, and they're telling me that they're letting me go. And initially, I said, "This is it. I'm starting my own business because I don't ever want this to happen. I don't want to feel like this ever again." And so when you said that, I was like, "Wait, was that a wound, or was it
or a pivot?
A pivot and motivation?"
Yeah.
And now going to when you talk about personal security, was it belief in myself and belief in God that prompted me to say, okay, go into business. It's time to relocate the family. What is God doing in this season? Versus being, like you just said, feeling slighted. Like,
right.
You just told me last week that you was promoting me to vice president. Now you're telling me you're letting me go, like that ego part.
Right.
So it could be.
It could be a combination of the two, but also just knowing you land on healthiness. But that's where you end up landing. You are a person that lands on health. We all are human. We get angry, we get this, we get that, but where does my soul normally land? And it is your life pattern that your soul normally lands on healthiness. And so I would say to you that part of the push of that situation, and God will use negative situations to push us to where we need to be, because there's some stuff we would have never left. There was some stuff we would have never left, and then ended up missing our destiny and missing that season of our lives. But it is important to know and to understand, and for people around you to understand, where does he or she normally land? Okay, you can say certain things about certain people, and I'll say, nah, because they normally land here. But then there are other people that I know, yeah, they could have done that. And I've taught this in personal development for years. There's in the movie in the Biggie movie, when he's on a date, Biggie is on a date with Faith, and Faith asked him a very, very important question. She said, "Are you a bad man trying to be good, or are you a good man trying to be bad?" Okay? My vernacular is, where do you land? Because some people are bad people trying to be good. And some people are good people trying to be bad. I was dealing with this 5th grade mentoring class at Westside last week, and I was telling the story of years ago, and I was congratulating these young men, and I was telling the story of years ago where this mom came to me and she said, "Pastor, can you go up to the school and just kind of basically fight for her son? He's getting suspended, on the borderline of getting expelled, and so can you go to bat for him?" And so she said, "Pastor, he's gotten around the wrong crew, and he's just influenced by the wrong people, and he got." And so I went up there, talked to the teachers and the counselors and that type of thing, and I went to the mom. I said, I said, I need to clarify something for you. I need to clarify something for you. Um, your son didn't get caught up with the wrong group. Your son is the leader of the group. You know, he's the leader. This is not he got caught up with the wrong crowd. He's the leader of the crowd. And I said, I need you to have that clarity, because that clarity is the beginning point of us working on his transformation. Okay? You need to stop lying to yourself. Okay? So when you see him being good, you know, that's the exception. That's the exception. You know, that's not the rule. So let's start there so that we can actually work. But as long as you're lying to yourself, that ain't gonna work. She said, Pastor, really? I'm like, really? You know, he's the ring leader. They're following him. He's not in a bad group. He's the leader of a bad group. So let's start there. You know, let's start. I'm different. I'm sorry. You know, and so we have to deal with that. But when it comes to who we are, we have to be honest with ourselves about our own emotional makeup. We have to be honest with. I stay out of every opportunity that I can to get angry. Okay. Because that ain't good for me. That ain't good for me. So I have become, in my older age, so non-confrontational. Y'all can have it. I'm out. Yeah, that's what y'all. Okay, I'm out. I'll emotionally shut down. I'll do all because and being angry. There's nothing wrong with being angry. It is what anger does to me. You know, Bible says, "Be angry, but don't sin." There's nothing wrong with being angry. We're all human. God made us human. God gets angry. God gets angry. But I know my makeup and what it does to me. So I have to stay away from it. We all have to know our emotional makeup so we know what we can do and what we can't do. So we deal with the shock. We deal with the security. My security is in who I am. And that's why it's so important that we build that security, that personal belief into the fabric and the foundation of our kids, so that they have voices over and over again from their childhood telling them, not that leads them to entitlement, not what you're supposed to have, no, who you are. Who you are when you know, when our kids are growing up, I would say to them, I'm upset with you, not because you're a bad boy. I'm upset with you because you're a good boy, and you're doing something bad. You are a good boy, and you're doing something bad. It is that, and having that identity in your kids, and that's what's part of the problem. What in our communities, we've got these unprepared parents saying all this crazy stuff to their kids. And you ain't this, and you ain't that, and this and that, and you little this, and you little that, and so they go to school, you know, with all of that in them. You know, if nobody in my family believes, you know, if I'm 7 years old, and nobody in my household believes that I can learn, then I'm probably not going to learn. I'm probably not going to learn. If nobody else is reading, I'm probably not going to read. If nobody else is communicating effectively, I'm probably not going to communicate effectively. They've got to hear these stories because it brings a security and it brings a pride. You know, most of your families probably taught you to have pride in your last name. You know, have pride in your last name. You know, I know your mother did. You know, to have pride. This is our family. This is who we are, not just who. There's a certain dimension that, and we can go overboard with that, but there's a certain dimension that we ought to say, no, that's not Triplett. You know, and you got to have, okay, you're a triplet, therefore this, and this. You're a triplet, therefore this, and this, and this. And I think one of the things, and let me say this as an aside, I think one of the things that we as Christians have got to stop doing is putting everything on God. In this sense, I was taught to believe in God and to serve God. I was also taught to have pride in my last name. It's both. It's both. And so I know that I have to present to kids and one day grandkids, I have to present them not only God, I have to present them family. You are a triplet. Okay? You are because they may not approach God the same way I do. But if I can instill into them a security in their personal identity, coupled with an essence of who God is, then I'm giving them a security that they need. Does that make sense? Yes. So let's go here. Let's talk about the support system. Let's talk about support system. Here's the first thing when I think about, especially business, personal relationships, all of that. Have you built in a shock absorber in the system? So, have you constructed a financial plan that can take a hit? So that when the shock comes, there's some cushion. Okay? Have you constructed a relationship plan that allows you to extend grace to a good person who has made an error? Mm-hmm. Or do your relationships have no cushion in them? Cross me, you're done. Make me mad, it's over. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got 3 strikes.
See there, we're not playing baseball. We're not playing baseball. Yeah, right. But see, here's the point. I get you. I get the sentiment of you. But here's my problem with formulas like that. There's some people that they should be out with 1 strike.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
Depends on what they did.
Absolutely. So we can't use the formula. You don't get 3 strikes. You don't get 3 strikes to hit me. You get 1 time to hit me.
Right.
It's at 1 and no. I tell the women in our church, he should never get a second chance to make you fear.
Right.
So some people don't get certain swings are bigger than others. So to say, oh no, it's 3 strikes. No. But to your point, is there, for you it's 3 strikes, for somebody else, have you put a shock absorber in the system? One of the challenges of our relationships is that most of them are sentiment and not love. Most of them are sentiment. They are feelings. Most of them. If like I said on Sunday, if the president can make up percentages, I can make up some too. He just make up numbers. you know. But here's my point, Ms. Holly. So for example, when I say most of them, I am meaning non-familial relationships, even though people break up their families now, and sisters and brothers. I don't talk to you the rest of my life. That was just craziness. But our relationships of choice, I don't have a choice who my family is. But in your relationships of choice, friendships, colleagues, even some romantic relationships, I would say that a large percentage of them are based on sentiment and utility and not necessarily love. Not the kind of love, not agape love. They may be based on, phileo or something like, eros, but they're not, it's, let's talk sentiment. This is how I feel about you. But what happens when I don't feel that way anymore? Okay, what happens when I don't feel that way anymore? Is there a shock absorber in there? It's like I wake up, things ain't the same no more. You don't make me feel like, and that moves into utility. When I do premarital coaching and I ask the person, tell me why you're here. We're here to get married. No, well, why you want to get married? Because we love each other. Tell me why you love each other. Mm-mm. And then they start, oh, she does this, and he does this, and he makes me feel this. And I said, stop. I stop, okay? You love their contribution to you. You just told me about all the contributions they make to you. Your feeling, your esteem, your support, all of that. Tell me, what is it about them, the person that you love, that has nothing to do with necessarily their contribution to you? Do you love his worldview? Do you love his caring nature? Do you love her perspective? Do you love her drive? Do you love her class? Do you love his hard work, his work ethic? What is it about him or her? Because the rest is utility and sentiment. And when it's just utility and sentiment, there's no shock absorbers. Mm-hmm. So when they stop doing that, your feelings change. Or when they're no longer able to do that. So you don't make me feel like you used to make me feel. You don't give me the attention you used to give me. Not giving anybody the opportunity to, not giving anybody the privilege or to stop doing stuff. My point is, what is it that's authentic and organic about the person? Okay? Would I like you if we weren't dating? And I've seen situations, if the two people weren't in love, they would never have to see each other ever again in life. Because there's nothing that draws them together. So it's, here's what, for those of us who are people of faith, here are the shock absorbers, that are in relationships when we say we love a person. I think it was Bishop Bronner who said this. He said, you have to show up in every relationship to extend grace. Mm-hmm. If I don't show up to extend grace, then there's no shock absorber in my relationship. I got to show up to extend grace. Scripture, shock absorbers. Love is patient, shock absorber. Love is kind, shock absorber. Oh, wait. Love does not seek its own. Shock absorber. Love doesn't keep, I'm paraphrasing now, this is the Derek Triplett version. Love doesn't keep a list of the wrongs. Shock absorber. Because if you do something, and I try to differentiate mistake and error. Mistake means I didn't try to do it. Error means I didn't know it was going to do that. It's something that I went to do. I just didn't know it was going to have this effect. I made an error in judgment. I didn't know it was going to affect you the way that it affected you. I didn't make a mistake and not call you. I didn't call you. That was an error. It wasn't a mistake. I didn't feel like calling you. That wasn't a mistake. I didn't mistakenly not pick up my phone. I had no plans of picking up my phone. But it was an error. But if all of my mistakes and errors are brought up every time I make an error, it's on the pile. Then what do we do? It's kind of like the people who were in marriage counseling, and the man said to the counselor, he said, my problem is that every time something happens, my wife gets historical. And the counselor says, don't you mean hysterical? He said, no, I mean historical. She starts rattling down. This happened in 99. This happened in 2012. I can't recover if everything I do, you pull out my rap sheet.
I got to stop doing that stuff then.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Absolutely. But nevertheless, if I'm going to heal and go forward, I gotta erase the page. I gotta erase it. It's kind. It does not keep recording as wrong. That's shock absorbers. Those are new cars don't do it as much, but I remember as a kid riding in those cars and the shocks were gone. Boom. It's like, okay, Daddy, we're gonna do something about this. I know we ain't got much money in this family, but this ride is getting a little bumpy. Now of course I was thinking that. I couldn't say that. I couldn't say it. Okay. If you don't put shock absorbers into the system of your life, into the system of your relationship, it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Remember that it's you who's gonna need it.
Yes. This is for you.
Yeah. I'm gonna need it.
This is for you. And so the expectation of perfection is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It doesn't happen. And so in my support system, before the setback happens, I've got to prepare my system for setbacks. Let's go further. If I go through life thinking nothing is supposed to happen to me, then when it does, it's going to be a shock to my system. That's why, for those of us who are Christians, Jesus warns us, in this life, you will have tribulation. I'm warning you. Yes, you who fasts all the time. Yes, you who pays your tithes. Yes, you who goes to church. Yes, you who serves other people. Yes, you're going to have tribulation. And he said, I would be a bad God if I didn't warn you. And so if you don't have that in your system, then you're somewhere always talking about, why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? So part of your support system is, have you put the shock absorbers in it from the beginning? Financially, have you budgeted in a way that you can take a shock? Most of us don't have it, but that's, one of my friends was unjustly fired recently. And so she said, she says, I got 6 months of my bills in savings. So she said, I'll see what God does after that. But I got 6 months. That's a shock absorption system in her finances. Research says that the majority of regular Americans are a paycheck from being homeless. Nothing is built, no cushion is built. And so part of my support system is, have I put it in the system? Secondly, who are the people closest to me? Your support system, your friends, your family. I say to our people, surround yourself with people of faith, so on the day you don't have any, you can borrow some from them. Because there's some days I don't have it. There's some days I don't have it. Support system, people who can pray for you, people who can encourage you, people who are skilled in areas that you're not. Because you need some people now that you can talk through stuff with. You need some smart people in your crew. You don't just need praying people, you need some smart people. How do I come back from this? There are these crisis PR people, for celebrities, and that they keep you from making it worse. So you hire them, and then they tell you what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do. There are these crisis PR people. And they're almost like the accident attorneys. They used to call them ambulance chasers at that time. They just follow social media. They just follow social media and see what people post, and then they say, just in case you need me. I've had this. Just in case you need me, I'm a PR crisis, a crisis PR person. And then it becomes obvious the people who don't have it. If Shannon Sharp is either hard-headed or he's getting bad PR advice, or he has no, because he has mismanaged this thing totally. It's like, shut up, stop posting videos, stop. And then you have other people in who know, just don't say nothing. They said bad story is gonna last 21 days. Because in 21 days, somebody else gonna do something more stupid than you did. Just ride it out for 21 days. Just ride it out. That was pre-social media, so it's a little extended now. But yeah, it's just like we are in a 24-hour news cycle. Something else is gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But my point is, you need people with skills to support you when there's a setback. You have a financial setback, you need some people who have financial skills and knowledge. You have a medical setback, You call the doctor. Where's your support system? Who's in you? And one of the things we have to do is one of the things I'm gonna have to do is have them stop cutting the grass between Wednesdays after 12 to 1. That's one of the things I'm gonna have to do. You know, but you need people with skills, relationships. Who should I call?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do because, and I want to say this correctly, I don't always know what to do about what happened to me.
Yeah. What?
I need somebody else's help with what happened to me. And so it's very, very important that you have a support system. And then finally, that you develop a strategy. Okay, how long is this going to take? What do I need to put in place? What's my strategy to bounce back from this? Because you got to believe and know that you're going to bounce back. But you're not going to bounce back doing nothing all the time. What's the strategy? Sometimes the strategy is silence. Sometimes the strategy is silence. Sometimes, that's always been, my position, especially, in this city. People, the press knows not even call me anymore. Would you have no? Do you have a statement? No. Would you like to comment? No. No. My position has always been silence can be misinterpreted, but it can't be misquoted. It can be misinterpreted because I have journalists who tell me, well, if you don't say anything, then journalists automatically believe that you're guilty, so say something. No. It can be misinterpreted. You can come to a conclusion on what you think about why I didn't say anything, but you cannot twist words I didn't say. Silence cannot be misquoted. And so it's important, though, that you have a strategy. What is your financial strategy? What is your emotional strategy? Sometimes you need to go get therapy. What is your emotion? Sometimes you may need to get away. Whatever it is, develop a strategy because time does not heal all wounds. It's a cliche. Time does not heal all wounds. If we take that metaphor, a wound, if you have a physical wound, it doesn't just get better with time. It needs treatment. Okay? My broken leg is not getting better with time. I need to set and have surgery. And a lot of people say, it's just going to take some time. No, it might take some treatment. It may take some surgery. It may take some, I need a strategy more than just time. Does that make sense? So as I deal with setbacks, I'm going to deal with them. I got to deal with that shock to my system. I got to walk in the security that I am and know that my belief in myself and my belief in God is what it's supposed to be. I've got to make sure that I have a good support system. I got a good support system. As I watch our communities and the like, some people's problem, not to rid people of personal responsibility, but some people's problem is that they haven't had enough good people around them.
Yes.
They just have never had enough good people around them. And I see it in these schools every day. I see your problem. I met your family. Mm-hmm. And if you deal with that, and that's why poverty is such a thief. It is the great robber because you are forcing me to stay in surroundings where I can't be exposed to people who can help me grow. You are forcing me, because poverty in 2025 is not the same as poverty in 1975. It's a different thing. We were poor, but we didn't have to worry about dying in our front yard. We were poor, but we could go outside. You know, we were poor, but we had books. Poverty in 2025 is totally different than poverty. And in part because the quality of people raising us is different than the quality of people who are raising some of these kids in poverty. You can navigate the storm of poverty if you've got good captains. They don't have good captains or good crews. So it's important to have that support system. And then finally, that support system helps you come up with the strategy. I told my daughter one time, my son, she lives in Atlanta, I said, especially at the station of my life now, I said, I need to be around some people who've known me more than 10 years. Yeah. Who have a deeper concept of who I am. It's cool to have, you keep making new friends and that type, but people who've been around, for an extended part of your journey, they have a different vibe. They have a different, she knows, she can sense stuff. She's like, you can't hide from them, and so sometimes it's and I get that, my mom is back here now, so it's better. But when you're in a place and everybody's new, it's like, okay, I need to be around some people who've known me for a while. Yeah, and so it's been my pleasure. I thank you, and it's my number one goal is to not waste people's time and to give them something that they can actually use. All right? Have a great day.